Hi, my name's Eloisa Cardona. Essentially, I'm an actress, long time here in Seattle. I'm not particularly based with any theaters right now. We never are. But currently, I am going to be doing a summer up at Whidbey Island for the Island Shakespeare Festival. And soon after that, the work continues. In fact, it's going on right now. I'm going to be the dramaturg. I am the dramaturg and community outreach coordinator for Parkfield Players for their upcoming production of Bloodletting.
Yeah, that's my wife. My name is Roger Rigor, and I'm a retired educator. Used to teach math and science at what was a program at the University of Washington with the Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity, the Ida B. Wells School for Social Justice. Right now, I'm actively involved with the Foundation for Philippine Progress. I am the vice chairman of the board, and what it does is extend help to the Filipinos, to the country, simply because of the times, following the three pillars of education, health, and human rights. So also wear a lot of hats. I do that, and I do music. I do plays, reading.
I can hook them into them.
And involved with the church, St. Joseph's Parish, and among other things. So that's me.
When I was about 5 years old with Auntie Dorothy of FYA. And then after that, it was with Auntie, our dear Tita Dali Castillo. When I got into her dance troupe, at first she was a teacher, a PE teacher at my grade school, and from which was also associated with a high school, Immaculate High School. We used to be in the same building, and so there she started her dance group. It was the Immaculata. It was named after the school, Immaculate Conception Church, that she first started teaching at. And from there, we basically kind of went out to community events wherever they had us, and we danced. Basically, I loved dancing. I loved Filipino dancing. That was the first art form that I ever learned how to do. And that became my gateway into other things, too, like singing in my high school choir and in the vocal ensemble. But acting was kind of like that thing that stirred the I can do this vibe inside of me, but I was very shy. I knew I wanted to do it because I started hearing about a group of Filipino actors at that time. I was headed first by, I think, Maria Batiola, Stan Assis. Tim Cordova was also involved in it, but there was also B. Kiyahara. And they started, I can't even remember the name of the group back then, but it was knowing that there was this group of Asian Americans that were starting something. But of course, I was too young to actually try to say that I wanted to do that sort of thing. My parents were not encouraging of it. Hey, the Filipino folk dancing, that was great. Of course, it got me in touch more with my culture. I was with my aunt. They knew I was going to be okay with her. But acting, no. They had dreams, of course, as all Filipino parents that were immigrants had of their children of that era. They came from hardship, and they knew that if they worked hard and laid the foundation for their children could be anything they choose, but not being artists. They wanted them to be lawyers, doctors, teachers, okay. They just didn't want them to do anything that was not going to set them up for life financially. And I can understand that, but that was not where my heart was. And I knew that going through life, and that became stronger as I got older. I did do like high school musicals. And again, I think that kind of kept me going as a young Filipino high school student. But there was really nothing that encouraged me out there to draw me into that field. Just this feeling that this is what I wanted to do. Then I went to college. At Seattle Center Community College, I started taking like acting 101 type classes. And that was when I truly knew that that was what I wanted to do. And of course, I remember my instructor at that time saying, because he was nurturing, I learned a lot from him, but exiting from his classes, he said, there's not a lot of roles for you out there. Just, but but that doesn't mean that you should stop. And I remember the first time I got enough courage to audition for something, it was an audition with he's known in our theater company. His name is Rex Carlton. I can't remember the production that he was auditioning for, but I came in and I auditioned for him. And at the end of it, he said, wow, okay, I can't use you. Basically, I think he told me he couldn't use me for this production that he was casting for. But he said, keep doing what you're doing. You'll find work. That was impetus enough for me. That was wind enough for under my wings to keep me going. And went to the University of Washington from there. And of course, what came out of my mouth, people would ask me, so what are you going to major in? And of course I said, I think I want to go into business, but that was just coming out of my mouth and not of my heart. And it's a good thing because, and from there, I basically knew that if your heart wasn't in it, then why bother? There wouldn't be energy, there wouldn't be passion behind what you did. And when I went into the drama department at the University of Washington, sure, I was probably the only Asian at the time, the only Filipino. Nothing like that ever bothered me, never stopped me. I always felt like, and I've been in situations like that where I'm the only Filipino, the only Asian. That never bothered me. It's just like, hey, I can start something here. I can be a trailblazer. I can teach something. I can teach them something. I can learn something. That's always how I ever approached any situation like that. Went through the drama department. My first quarter there, of course, they had auditions for student productions and stuff like that. I didn't get anything except for a supporting role or maybe even a technical role, because that is also part of your learning there. You learn to be on stage. You learn to be a technical person. You're in overalls in the set scene, painting sets. You're in the lighting booth, learning how to, maybe bring up lights or turn on lights when you're told to. But I reveled in that because this was the world I wanted to be in. And then every quarter, I was doing a production. Again, I was the only actress of color in that program, or one of the few as I was going through the University of Washington program. And I remember one audition where they were casting a family for this play. And the student director basically said, wow, that was a great audition, but we're casting a family. And I went, okay, I accepted that then. But now going forward, I think they understood over time that a family doesn't all have to look the same, especially these days. But then again, that was when I accepted of this world. And I learned a lot. My instructors were great. I have my college years at the University of Washington Drama Department were my happiest years. I felt like I was flying. And then again, exiting that, I knew that I was going into a world that I would have to basically blaze a trail and just keep at it. Because essentially, I took also inspiration from things like Star Trek, for instance, watching them and seeing that there was actually a world that was very diverse already at that time. You had characters that were of all nationalities, and I thought going forward, that could still happen, just because it's not happening now. And I even went to an audition between my junior year and my senior year at the University of Washington. I went down to Ashland, Oregon, where they have the Shakespeare Festival. Again, going into it, knowing what I was going into, but saying, hey, they haven't seen me yet. I can do this, who knows? It was going down there on my own. That was an experience, I think, that I marvel at too. That's one of those experiences that I marvel at, because my parents, basically, it was not an easy thing to get them to understand this is what I really wanted to do, to even major in it at the University of Washington. But I think they felt, well, she's at the University of Washington as long as she's there and she's learning something. It's a positive thing, but it was hard. It was a hard thing. When I went to Ashland, Oregon, it was just like, I wanted to go there. Because I loved Shakespeare, I wanted to do that, and I wanted to see if I could blaze a trail down there. It was a dream, and I set it all up myself. I talked to one of my classmates that went down there the year before. Where did you go? How did you do this? How much was this? Where did you stay? What was it like? And so from that information, I set up my hotel. I set up my Greyhound bus trip down there, and then told my parents about it. And they accepted it because I guess they figured, well, she's about to graduate. She's trying to find work out there. Okay, and it's probably no different from, I think about it then, how did their parents let go of them? And when they had to go forth in this world, and try to make whatever living they could. I told my father that I had to be at the Greyhound station at 3:50 in the morning to get that bus to go down to Ashland, Oregon. And so my father, come the time, I got into the car. My father was quiet about it, but, he took me, he got me in the car, had my things, he dropped me off at the Greyhound bus. And I think about that, we had no cell phones. While I was down at Ashland, Oregon, I didn't call them back. And in these days of cell phones where we can text, in a minute and get an answer back in the next second, or, reach down there and go, hey, I'm here, I'm okay, on your own phone, or even text them on the way, take pictures, show them how everything is with you. I think about that, I go, I don't know how they did that with me, but that was the world that we lived in. They knew, this was their world, that this was how it operated. If I had to do that with any of my children, I was just like, it would be the equivalent of, actually, I told my daughter this once, taking them to a black hole and just dropping them off and saying, okay, I hope you're going to be fine. But again, that was a learning experience for me. The audition went well, I think. And at the end of it, I think he was an associate artistic director, but he was a director at the program, said, I'm going to be at the University of Washington for the first quarter. If you're doing anything, let me know. And that made me go, he's thinking about it. Okay. But as life would have it, that quarter back to the University of Washington while he was there, I did nothing. I was cast in nothing. So obviously it wasn't meant to be. At that time, but I went through, graduated from the University of Washington, and just kept going to auditions, and actually was lucky. I thank the forces of the universe. I thank God that basically I felt I had these experiences along the way that told me that I was going in the right direction. I was going to be fine. Just keep going. It wasn't going to be easy, but keep going. I got cast at the Seattle Children's Theater out of the University of Washington. I got cast in Shakespeare company. We went up to the San Juan Islands and did Shakespeare in the Summer, which marked me for life. Shakespeare and summer are synonymous for me, and I'm happy to be doing that again this year. I had professional, even while I was at the University of Washington, I had my first professional experience being cast in a school traveling program at Seattle Repertory Theater. But I think that kind of spoiled me going forward, because it was a professional experience. You had a professional director, you had designers. I mean, basically, I felt the support of the production. And then, of course, they put you in a bus or a van, and then you travel. We traveled throughout the entire state of Washington. And it was a play that had to do with a young Vietnamese girl who came from Vietnam from the recent war experience and coping with life here. And it was an all Asian actors except for one His name is Ruben Sierra, who actually started the group theater here. And of course, his focus was going to be multicultural theater, which lasted for a long time and which I was a part of for a production. There's so many of us now in the industry here, the theater industry, that are acclaimed, that are accredited, that are awarded. Several. Ray Tagavilla, who has had multiple Gregory Awards. That's our theater award. Justin Huertas, who's also been multiply awarded, and right now is, he wrote Lizard Boy, basically, that was commissioned by Seattle Repertory Theater, that is now, we had a production in London and on the East, I think in New York, and Sarah Parkalob, who has also been awarded. She started as a student at the Cornish School of Arts. Her one-woman plays, Dragon Lady, Dragon Baby, Dragon Mama, those came out of a senior theater project that all acting students had to do coming out of Cornish. And that was based on the life of her grandma. And she played multiple parts. That got acclaim, and then she took it east to Boston, and that basically connected her and got her known with people who are producing a show, a remount of 1779, which is about the founding of the country. Basically, think Lin-Manuel and Alexander and Hamilton. They kind of wanted to do something like that. But it was an all-female production. It was about the founding fathers. And I think what that production wanted to highlight was, number one, when this country was established and by the founding fathers, they did not consider, because they didn't consider how multicultural this land would be, that these faces, these persons of color were not considered at all in the founding of the Declaration of Independence that starts, all men are created equal. Okay, what men? No women, no mention of women. So, but yes, you have those three personages that are known here in Seattle, and many more that are coming up. It's basically, as a Filipino American who wants to get into theater here in Seattle, there's a place for them.